Well, good afternoon, Britain. We are learning more about this seismic event on this seismic day. Let's go straight to our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker, who has an extraordinary statement.
Yes, Tom, in the last minute, I've received a statement from His Majesty King Charles III, of course, the brother of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. The King says, "I have learnt with the deepest concern the news about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and suspicion of misconduct in public office. What now follows is the full, fair and proper process by which this issue is investigated in the appropriate manner and by the appropriate authorities. In this, as I have said before, they have our full and wholehearted support and cooperation. Let me state clearly, the law must take its course. As this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter. Meanwhile, my family and I will continue in our duty and service to you all." And that statement is signed Charles R. An extraordinary statement from King Charles III there. I mean, this is not only his brother, but it's a senior member of the royal family, still legally 8th in line to the throne, who's been arrested on a very serious allegation of misconduct in public office, something that, if found guilty, you can receive a maximum term in prison of life. We believe Andrew is still in police custody, being questioned. You can see the statement on your screen now. But clearly the King had to say something, because this issue is not going away.
It's really cold, impersonal statement. It sounds like almost like it was written by a lawyer. But as you say, Cameron, it's, you know, the late Queen never complained, never explained, would never make any statements. Very interesting that this has come out within 4 hours of Andrew's arrest. Yeah,
I think you're absolutely right, Dawn. I think we've seen an evolution, perhaps, from the time of Queen Elizabeth II to where we are now. I mean, even dating back from... I hate to compare the two, and I don't mean to compare the two, but the Harry and Meghan Oprah interview, we saw a statement released by Buckingham Palace, a very short one, about a day after those allegations were aired, saying recollections may vary. Since then, we have seen perhaps a little bit of a sluggish response from Buckingham Palace from statements relating to Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's conduct. Clearly much more serious than anything Harry and Meghan ever did. Let's just make that absolutely clear. There is no comparison between the two. However, the point of Buckingham Palace relating to so-called scandals in the royal household, I think, has had a huge evolution. And I think it's getting to the point where the British public are not going to accept never complain, never explain. And I think we saw a hint of that maybe with Prince William last week, just before his Saudi tour, where more allegations were coming out within the Epstein files, and William, or his spokesperson, I should say, released a statement saying that William's thoughts are with the victims, and Catherine's thoughts are with the victims of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, and concerned about allegations about his brother and all the rest of it, followed by the King in this state. And I thought, with a similar statement, and I thought at the time, was this William kind of leading the charge here? So I think today, 4 minutes ago, it's very significant that it is the King that we're hearing from first, and not William. And as you say, Dawn, a very serious, very lawyer-like, very PR'd, perhaps, statement.
And yet, within this statement as well, there is some personal element. He uses I, me. Let me state clearly. The law must take its course. In this, they have our full and wholehearted support and cooperation. I mean, it's some sort of emotive language there too, clearly putting across what the legal position is of the royal family, and of course the idea that there will be no further comment, that it would not be right to have further comment or an ongoing commentary. But putting that word wholehearted support and cooperation, he's putting himself on the side of the police and investigators rather than his brother.
Well, I think he has to. And this is the age-old conundrum for any sovereign. Are you the family man, or are you the crown, or are you representing the crown? You're the sovereign as well as a private family member. And the crown always must come first. And King Charles is above the law as head of state. Yeah. Any criminal charge or any criminal prosecution which may or may not come, or whatever criminal trials are going on at the moment, whatever it is within the United Kingdom, it is always crown, as in king, versus the defendant, which leaves the king in such a tricky situation because it is his brother. His brother was born 66 years ago today inside Buckingham Palace, Tom and Dawn. Today, he sat in police custody suite. What a contrast.
It is quite the most astonishing. I mean, I've covered royal stories like you have, Cameron, but for a long, long time now. And I don't remember, I covered the Diana story, you know, the scandals around that. And I don't remember this being as seismic for the whole royal family, where it leaves the royal family, the public attitudes to the royal family. We know there was certain waning in popularity after the Queen died. So there is that feeling now that they're not as important as they once were to us. And that's the one word missing from that statement was the word brother.
Brother, yeah, exactly.
It was very. It's Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. Like, I do not know this person. It's not my brother. I just think it's his 66th birthday today, and the astonishing fact that he is still in line to the throne.
Yes,
he's now sitting in a prison cell.
And to be fair to King Charles, he doesn't have the power to remove his brother from the line of succession, who's in a police custody suite. Neither does William. It is up to an Act of Parliament. It would be up to parliamentarians and politicians to create that legislation. But then the question would be, well, where do you stop? If parliamentarians are choosing who's in the line of succession, we may as well have a republic at that point. It's the print. But, Dawn, because of this, and Tom, because of this scandal and because of the arrest of a senior member of the royal family, the hereditary monarchy, the idea of a hereditary monarchy, is being called into question slightly here. Now, let's not get completely ahead of ourselves. The royal family as an institution is still quite popular within the United Kingdom. More people support it than don't support it. But this clearly has seriously damaged the reputation of the institution, I think quite significantly. I think it's going to be very hard for William in particular to build back up that trust for when he eventually one day takes over. But also internationally. I mean, I'm already having journalists from across the world contact me asking for information. This isn't just Britain. This is the reputation of the British monarchy around the entire globe, and by extension, the reputation of the United Kingdom as a whole.
There's nothing more important than keeping your money and your identity safe online. And with so many VPN options available, choosing the right one can be pretty daunting. But this video's sponsor, ExpressVPN, is making the choice easier for GB News viewers. ExpressVPN is offering up to 73% off, plus 4 extra months free. That's top-level security from just £2.49 a month, and you're covered by their 30-day money-back guarantee. So just click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code now. Remember, when you're online, you are often sharing personal data, so hackers can steal your information, your passwords, your photos, and your bank details in just seconds. But ExpressVPN encrypts your connection, making it virtually impossible for hackers to access your personal information. So why choose ExpressVPN? Well, it couldn't be easier to use. With just one click, you are protected. And ExpressVPN uses military-grade AES 256 encryption, which is the same standard trusted by the US government to guard their classified information. With their new tiered plans, you can protect up to 14 devices at once and manage passwords securely. Live chat support is available 24/7, and it typically connects you in under a minute with a real person. Click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code to get up to 73% off ExpressVPN, plus 4 extra months free. Start protecting yourself today with ExpressVPN.
And also, as this relates to releases of the US Congress, of that committee, those 3 million plus Epstein files that have led to this position, clearly there will be people thinking about the ramifications for other people named in those files, for other individuals who's had their communications with Jeffrey Epstein now published. This might not be the last arrest that we see.
No, I'd be highly surprised if it wasn't. And there are suggestions by some that Andrew is getting not unfair treatment in terms of the arrest, but the fact that there is so much attention on Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, whereas you say, Tom, there are several people named in the Epstein files. Not that that necessarily means there's wrongdoing involved, But there clearly are other people with very serious allegations against them, which perhaps would need to be investigated on both sides of the Atlantic. Just to repeat, for those of you just joining us on GB News, what the King has said in response to his brother, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, being arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office in Sandringham this morning. The King said, "I have learned with the deepest concern the news about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and suspicion of misconduct in public office. What now follows is the full, fair and proper process by which this issue is investigated in the appropriate manner and by the appropriate authorities. In this, as I have said before, they have our full and wholehearted support and cooperation. Let me state clearly, the law must take its course. As this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter. Meanwhile, my family and I will continue in our duty and service to you all." And that's a very significant point, which I forgot to mention earlier. Service and duty to you all. The King's commitment, the King's dedication, something he vowed on the day of his accession and the day of his coronation. I will dedicate my life to service to all of you for the good of this country, similar to William. From my reading of that, he has washed his hands of his brother.
It really does sound like that is it, isn't it? There isn't much further he can do as far as titles or anything like that is concerned. I mean, he will, for security reasons, I'm sure, be living on the Sandringham estate. There's not much else they can do because of that security issue.
Yeah, exactly. And as the King says, it's up for the law to take his course. It's up to the police, relevant police forces, to question him and the Crown Prosecution Service to decide whether or not to bring a charge against him. And then, of course, that can go one of two ways, can't it? But in terms of the status that Andrew still has, yes, the King did as much as he could in October by removing the Prince title, the Duke of York title and all the rest of it. Legally, he is still a Duke of the Realm. That would require an Act of Parliament to remove it, as would removing him from the line of succession. I would be highly surprised if the Prime Minister, who did actually say this morning that Andrew's not above the law on an interview on another network, I'd be surprised if he wasn't asked, actually, by political journalists, do you plan to introduce legislation to remove Andrew from the line of succession, and whether either the UK government or a private member's bill will bring forward that legislation.
I mean, it's not unknown. We have removed people from the line of succession before. I mean, famously, we got rid of James II. We kicked out all Catholics from the line of succession after that. I mean, to some extent, that is the constitutional framework on which the modern sense of Britain was built, that Parliament sort of does decide this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the last time anything similar to this happened, Tom, was 1917, the Titles Deprivation Act, which was the way that Parliament removed all of the German prince's title, who clearly were fighting on the wrong side of the First World War, which would again include the line of succession. But that was the last time it happened. So well over 100 years since anything similar has gone through Parliament. The King, what we've been hearing from sources within the royal household when we were all asking these questions a couple of months ago was, well, the King doesn't want to take up parliamentary time here. Is that going to fly with politicians? Is that going to fly with the public? Well, we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Can we just recap quickly for those that are joining us at lunchtime today? Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor was arrested at 8 o'clock this morning, his 66th birthday. 6 unmarked police cars and 8 plainclothes officers arrived at his farm on Sandringham. That was just after 8 o'clock this morning. They are also searching properties in Berkshire, which we assume to be Sandringham estate there. Absolutely seismic royal news for you there. I don't remember a story being this having this much effect on not just what happens in this country, but around the world, certainly in America. Yeah. We're also getting reports in from America that there is further investigation now being triggered by what's happening in the UK.
It is one of those stories that you will remember where you were when you heard it. You will remember where you were when you heard that Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, the former Duke of York, the man who is not far away from being... I mean, how many places away from line to the throne is he?
He's 8th in line to the throne.
8th in line to the throne, and arrested by the police today.
Yes, and I must just say, the King learnt about this when we did. Buckingham Palace and the King, I've just been told, was not informed in advance of the arrest of his brother. The police did not inform His Majesty the King.
Interesting.
So he, it appears, has been blindsided like the rest of us. That this was all happening.
I mean, because obviously they are the royal family, but they're also human. He must have been absolutely shocked as everybody else is this morning, to hear that 8th in line to the throne was arrested at home this morning by unmarked police cars going into his house and searching the property.
On his birthday as
On
well.
his birthday, yeah, well, absolutely.
Birthday
Yes, I don't think they were bringing a birthday cake, that's for sure. But yes, I mean, and by extension, Dawn, he is the king, he is the sovereign, he is the head of state. And not only that, it's his brother. So on a personal level, clearly very sad and very uncomfortable, not only for him, but for his sister Anne and Edward and others who are close to Andrew on a personal family level. But also his head always has to be that he is the monarchy, he is the head of state, he is the king. And his principal purpose is to protect the integrity and the popularity of the institution to make sure that it continues. It's, he's head of an unbroken line that dates back 1,000 years or so, and he'll want to make sure that he can maintain that. They're in damage control now, clearly, in Buckingham Palace.
Yes.
And I'm sure Kensington Palace are having very similar conversations inside those walls. But because this is an active criminal investigation, there's not much really they can do. They cannot be seen to be interfering or getting involved with. And I think it's actually a blessing in disguise that the King was blindsided and Buckingham Palace was not informed in advance of the arrest. I'd like to know if the Prime Minister was informed beforehand, but the King, as far as I'm aware, was not informed.